I feel like there's a lag effect. You know, the economy has done a lot of shifting. A lot of money's come in. A lot of money's been pumped out. Interest rates are crazy, but rentals are kind of this secondary layer of a market that float on top of all these other, probably a little more like immediately reactive metrics.
I did not know this. I was actually very surprised by this. But in the Jefferson County, Birmingham Housing Authority area, there's actually on a waiting list. Welcome to Cash Flow Bros. I am the mic man this time, so we are glad to have you here.
You didn't even call it a podcast. We're there.
We're
People just hear Cash Flow Bros.
we're going to do one live in studio sometime soon. So look forward to that. But I'm Jordan with
Todd.
Rob.
and Rob. What a crew. What a crew we got. It feels different on this
Gang's
side.
all here.
Like with one person over here and two over there, it just feels different.
It's cozy,
That's
right?
the hot seat.
This is kind of nice. I could get used to this.
This will be post Christmas, I believe.
This
is
will
when
be?
when this airs. So
Well-
happy holidays to everybody. Hopefully you enjoyed your time with family and friends, and are gearing up for the new year. And
Hopefully
we're
you're
excited
buying any properties you have to buy for the end of the year tax purposes. Hopefully cars, trucks,
Hopefully
everything
it's
else
already
is
closed,
taken care of.
Hopefully you've eliminated your tax
that's right.
liabilities.
Hopefully everybody already did that and you're all good. So today this all kind of started a few days ago. I had a client that was looking at a property. He kind of buys low-end houses, and we've tried to kind of move away from that just because that's not really what we want to focus on. That's probably not the best long-term goal, which is what real estate's supposed to be. So I still work with this guy. We close a few a year, and he's pretty easy to work with, and he's bought a couple with me, and I was asking him the other day, how are those houses going? Because he was one of those first-time buyers that when he came in, I told him, look, you probably don't want to go this route. The tenants can sometimes trash the houses. The appreciation's really not there. What you think on paper is going to be is probably not what it's going to be. I gave him the whole spiel. And I asked him how one of his houses was going that we bought. And surprisingly, he's actually throwing off about $400 a month in cash flow, free cash flow, renting to Section 8. And he hadn't had any problems.
Nice.
So, surprisingly, it's worked out pretty well for him.
Yeah.
And it started because I asked him how it was going. I was talking about market rents, and he was like, dude, you're nowhere near it. Like, Section 8 is going to get $300-$400 more than that than what you're thinking Section 8 is going to get.
Right.
And I didn't know. He sent me a website from the HUD department that gives you an estimate of what rent's going to be based on the property size in each area. And it's surprising because his was a 2-1, and he's getting $1,200 a month.
Wow.
On it, which is the very top end.
What area?
Of I think it is in West End.
Okay.
I believe. So I was blown away.
And they had the voucher because they still have to have the voucher for that amount.
They do have to.
Yeah,
so and
it can be approved up to that amount.
Exactly. And so this was a new person, and I guess they had just received the voucher for the highest amount possible that they could get. And the house is in pretty good shape for where it's at.
Right.
Not that has any bearings on it, but
well, I think it does because
does it?
That person is walking around with a $1,200 voucher.
They can go
any spot that has that, and they chose his house because it was fixed up and attracted them.
Yeah.
So I think there is something to be said for, not doing the minimal, maybe.
Yeah.
Potentially.
That's where the fine line comes in.
That's a fine line. But,
is it worth it?
But they had to select him just as much as he had to have his house available for Section 8.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's something about his house
that
of all the ones they looked at, because that's a pretty.
I don't think it was in West End now that I think about it. It might have been more in like the
Mountain
Roebuck. Yeah, was it Mountain Brook? yeah, $1,200 there. That'll get you far. No, but I just thought that was so interesting, and it made me kind of think twice about my thoughts on Section 8 as a whole, because you just hear so many horror stories, You don't hear the good stories, and I always tell people, like, it's not going to be what it is on paper.
Yeah.
And maybe it is for him. Now, this is the first tenant that he's had in it, so the turn hasn't happened yet. So who knows what the house looks like. We're not there yet. He'll check in with me when that time comes. But I got to look in a couple things that I noticed while I was looking, and I didn't know this, and y'all might already know this, but I did not, that the housing authority here in Birmingham that handles the Section 8 currently has over 6,000 households on Section 8
Okay.
with over 1,000 private landlords.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know that. So, I mean, if you just do the math right there, there's some of those landlords, that's all they do is Section 8. And we know those people. But I just found that interesting that there's that many. Because 6,000, I mean, how many listings did we have when we did the Birmingham market update?
Less,
2,000
Yeah.
listings. I mean, and I don't
2,000
know what the
less.
total inventory of all of Jefferson County is, but 6,000 people that need assistance, that's a pretty good number of people.
Right.
And I mean, it speaks to Jefferson County and the city of Birmingham's ability to be able to help that many people. That's a great thing to be able to do that and help folks who can't handle it. But a couple of things in the news that popped up while I was just looking at things is, and this could have helped you before your Hueytown deal, but they just announced, I think it was 2 weeks ago, that they're actually shipping out third party to a call center for a national company that does Section 8.
That's interesting. So, breaking apart that Hueytown, one of the properties had an approval of an increase in rent
Yep.
in October of 2020, 2021? No, 2022.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to do this deal all the way in, basically summer of 2023, and they still hadn't been out to certify the property. Now, they will backdate that pay.
Yeah.
So as soon as they get out and they, as soon as the approval happens all the way, they would retrospectively pay. But it could have been another year. It could have been another 6 months. So, so you're saying that they're call center, or they're actually contracting inspectors?
They're not contracting the inspectors. They're contracting the call center to help alleviate some of the, hey, where am I at in this inspection? Hey, what paperwork am I missing? So that when you do finally get the actual housing authority from Jefferson County, Birmingham out there to do whatever they need to do, it's supposed to help speed that process up.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was interesting because who knows? They could already have all that done.
It could potentially be done. I also think, my understanding, some of it is the squeaky wheel gets the oil.
Yeah, of course.
And so when you're working with a PM, a property manager that has a lot of properties, they have 25 or 30 in the docket that need inspections, or 25 that need increases, or whatever. At any given time, they're in constant contact with Section 8. And versus like if you are managing yourself, or you have a small portfolio and you have a small property manager,
different story.
Different story versus, some of these bigger ones. I mean, that's probably someone's task every day is to call Section 8 and see where things are at.
Yeah.
And so they had said, like they had said that they had a lot of success with getting increases and getting things moved down the field.
So sometimes it is the squeaky wheel.
I think so.
But hopefully this call center helps for folks who are smaller landlords,
right?
To be able to get things done in a timely manner. And that kind of jumps into the next thing that while I was looking, I also found pretty interesting, that HUD, the federal HUD, Housing Authority, from the federal level, just awarded Birmingham, and I think this was a week or two ago also, a little over $2.1 million to our housing authority here. And with that money, it's actually supposed to expand from the 6,000 residents who currently are on the program to an extra 530 extra families. So that's hopefully helpful.
Was any of that money going to infrastructure or it's just solely to?
It's supposed to be. It's for just to add to the housing vouchers that are out there. And I say that to toss into the next one. I did not know this. I was actually very surprised by this. But in the Jefferson County, Birmingham Housing Authority area, there's actually 3,000 people on a waiting list to be approved.
Golly.
So I mean, this $2.1 million is a drop in the bucket by adding 530 vouchers. 3,000 people that are waiting for something. I don't know what those people are doing currently, living with family, I guess, just trying to make it on their own. That's a lot.
That is a lot.
That's literally half of what's already there. So that $2.1 million will hopefully at least start to help with that. And what they're actually, the intention of the $2 million, according to the articles that I read, was to help. Part of it is supposed to go to incentivize the landlords in better areas. That's the goal of increasing, the Mountain Brook as
Right.
Section 8 voucher. Probably not going to be Mountain
Probably
Brook.
not going to be having, but maybe you could see some stuff in Alabaster.
Yeah.
Pelham.
And that's what it's supposed to be for. And it's
Yeah.
supposed to help. And it didn't actually go into the full details because it hasn't been
Right.
sent out yet. You know how the government is. They'll award something and then next year you'll find out what happened.
Next year.
But it's interesting that their focus is to go outside of the neighborhoods that they're currently in. So I don't know how they're going to incentivize the landlords to allow, I guess, a
Money?
higher. Yeah.
Sounds like money.
Yeah,
I mean,
higher.
the increases could potentially help you because, I think we've had certain properties that actually haven't increased a crazy amount because the economy in certain price points, it's still pretty tight for those people. And so they're not necessarily going out and renting bigger. They're just finding something smaller and more affordable.
Yeah.
I can tell you how they've disincentivized landlords in the past, from personal experience and from talking to property managers that I've worked with, where I can't remember if it was sometime during COVID, I think it was 2021, we had a property that was listed on the market for $1,200 a month in rent. And we got a Section 8 application, and it takes about 30 days to go through the inspection process and make whatever repairs and get to lease signing. So it's kind of a unique leasing process when you go through that with them. And you're okay to deal with that for the benefits that you described.
Mm-hmm.
So we did that, went through the whole process, and we get to lease signing, and they say, here's your lease for $1,050. And we were like, what is this? We've gone through all your process, and this is not what we were marketing at. This is not what you indicated you would pay. What's up? And they said, well, we ran the comps. You don't get to see them, but here's your lease for $1,050.
Really?
Yeah. And
Wow.
and I, talking to my property manager, like, what's going on with this? He was like, they've done this to us a couple of times in the last, year. It's like starting to happen.
Wow.
And he's like, we are going to stop dealing with them because if they can't hold up their end of the bargain, you can't count on them.
No.
Right.
Who knows, what's we can't.
So did you back out?
Yeah.
or-
I said, get lost.
Yeah.
We're not going to deal with them. And going forward, we're not going to waste 30 days on something that's unsure.
Yeah.
That's the whole point, is that.
It's supposed to be sure.
Yeah, and hopefully what you described is they're putting in some processes.
That's what it
and
sounded
some
like.
incentives to fix it. They
Yeah.
realize there's a problem. I know I'm not the only one who's
Oh, no, I'm sure.
gone the other way.
So maybe it's you. That's the reason why I'm so scared of Section 8, because I just hear your horror stories. I need my guy to give me some more good stories.
I think, and I've talked to landlords. I talked to one last week. All he does is Section 8. And if you know how to dance the dance and jump through the hoops.
Yeah.
Basically anything with the government.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
any government program, it can be great if you know all the ins and outs, you know the right people to talk to, you know what hoops you've got to jump through, and how to smooth over the problems and the bureaucracy. It can be awesome. And
Yeah.
it sounds like it's getting more awesome if you're willing
Supposed to be. If you're willing to do it.
If you're willing
Yeah.
to do it, yeah.
I listened to an episode a while ago, and there's a guy who did it in the Washington, D.C. area, which rents are really high.
I would love to see what that is.
And his strategy was to go in and buy like 3 2s, and with the option, if you reconfigured it to turn into like a 4-3 or a 4-2 or whatever. And because you get paid by room and all that kind of stuff, and because there's so few 5-3s out there, it was like winning a lottery ticket for these families to get in. So they would get in, they would take care of the place immaculate because they didn't want to lose their voucher, and they realized how rare it was for them to have a big family and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
In this, DC, is very expensive to rent. So I mean, some of these vouchers were like $4,000 or $5,000. and he was just crushing it.
Yeah.
So there is, like you said, a game to be played. And if you really want to hone in on a niche, riches in the niches,
Oh,
and it could be where there's some potential increases in this pocket and some efficiencies being figured out, that it could be actually a viable thing to start
Hopefully.
doing some Section 8
Hopefully.
here. So
They also, because they have to, when they move, they have to renew their voucher, and there's some like stuff on the tenant side that they'd rather not have to do. They tend to stay put. So your vacancy should be
a lot
low.
lower.
Your consistency of pay should be high.
yeah.
So there's a lot of good things about it in theory.
I think I'm gonna focus
Yeah,
on that
yeah.
this year.
Yeah.
I think maybe not, only thing, but I'd like to just know because it won't be managed by Signal. I'm sure they won't want to do it, but it seems like some people are having success in it.
Yeah.
Anytime they start, putting big government incentives and trying to pump something up, there's opportunity.
Well,
there.
somebody gets the
I can
cash.
smell the
Might as
opportunity.
well be Jordan
those
Yeah.
PPP loans, that cash was flying left and right. You just had to be smart enough to go get it.
Right.
I want to be smart enough to go get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
And another thing that I was looking at too, and this what partly started this was what he sent me was what the fair market rents, what they consider fair market rents are for each bedroom, and it was the difference. What the document was is the difference between 23 and 2024.
Mm-hmm.
I found it interesting. Y'all might not find it as interesting, but I did. The 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom are all going up basically $200 every month. And the 4 bedrooms going up $300 every month.
Okay.
And the reason I find that interesting is because I feel like the end of this year, maybe most of 23 and part of 24, the actual fair market rents, I don't think are increasing like that.
No.
They're just not. If anything, they're stagnant / going backwards a little bit.
Yeah.
So I just find that that's typical for government to be at the very end of the slingshot, when it fires, of reactionary versus proactionary.
Yeah.
And I thought that's crazy because I don't know what the rent situation is going to look like for the actual non-Section 8 houses in 24, but something tells me that there's not going to be a boom like there has been the past couple of years.
What was the number for a 4-bed for 2024 fair market rent?
For this upcoming year,
Yeah. Yeah.
$1,752.
Wow.
Now these are maxes,
Yeah.
obviously, so not
Yeah,
everybody's
but
going to
people
get that. It's going to
So I have to have the voucher for
Yeah.
it, and like you said, they could dock it. But
they could dock it,
that
but
is
there's
interesting.
potential for it to go
That's
that high.
substantial.
So I mean, imagine a 4-bedroom, and they're out there. Imagine a 4-bedroom in Midfield,
Yeah.
Fairfield, and some of those really nice pockets that they have
Yeah.
in those areas. You're talking about pulling in $1,800 a month almost, when that property probably doesn't cost more than $100,000.
Yeah.
$120,000.
Yeah.
That's well over the 1% rule.
So they say.
So they say. What is the 1% rule, anyways?
What is it these days? Oh man, it is interesting to see how the landscape of real estate rentals, all those things are. I feel like there's a lag effect. The economy has done a lot of shifting. A lot of money's come in. A lot of money's been pumped out. Interest rates are crazy, but rentals are kind of this secondary layer of a market that float on top of all these other, probably a little more like immediately reactive, metrics. And to be honest, it's been very hard to put a pin on where they're going.
Yeah, 100%.
My rental in Gardendale is finally rented, which is great.
I tried to help you out. I saw
did.
somebody looking for one. I was like, I know a guy.
And we got someone in December that started, which was really good. But I had to drop the price below. I think I'm at pretty much a break even right now, and that's better than $0. Better not rented,
100%.
But
yeah.
I think personally, it should be renting for at least $100 to $150 more. But the market is telling me different at the current time. And I don't want, potentially I could have done Section 8, but I don't want that for that property, just because of the mileage on.
It's a
on
lot,
it.
and it locks you in too. Did you do a 6 month? Are you trying to get to the summertime?
So they
to
did a
redo it?
year. I had talked to him about it, and I, for whatever reason, I think they lock someone up for a year. But I told him next time when they come to renew, I'd like to renew either an 18-month or a 6 month.
Okay.
So I'm going to get him to.
Well, you got somebody in there.
I got someone.
Which is goal number one.
At the end of the day, you got to stop the bleeding.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
I mean, the biggest thing when I was doing a lot of cold calling for investing and stuff. One of the side benefits is you call these people who own rentals.
Yeah.
And some of them were willing to share advice and thoughts. And one guy described it as like mileage on a car. And so, if you have a tenant who has a full-time job, has a little bit of extra spending money, goes to the movies, goes out to eat every once in a while, the hours that they're actually in that house, they're flushing the toilets, walking the floors, compared to maybe someone who doesn't have as much liquid cash, who doesn't have a job going out 8 hours a day, all these different things. They're flushing that toilet, turning on those faucets,
I never thought about it like
walking
that.
those properties,
Mm-hmm.
8 to 10 hours more
Yeah.
than your average tenant.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine. That's ultimately the choice you make with a different tenant. But that's partially why these Section 8, people are like, man, they tear them up so much. It's like, no, they just live in them
Yeah. Longer.
2 to 3 times the amount of hours
Yeah.
that an other tenant may not.
Yeah.
And so when you do a turn, sometimes you're flipping that whole house. I just did one that was Section 8. It cost me $10,000. And then after that, the inspection came through, and they still wanted me to do about $1,100 worth of work.
I almost wonder if you could do. Can you do that
Ouch.
inspection before you do the flip? That's probably the way to do it. Like, all right, what do you want me to flip?
No, because you have to have it pretty much
Ready.
ready to go and on the market, rent ready.
And in our market, a lot of the houses that have been Section 8 in the past, in like let's say Inslee, a lot of those houses were built in the 30s, 40s,
Yeah.
50s, coming up on 100-year-old houses.
Yeah.
That also are being heavily lived in.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, your maintenance and repairs
Can be high.
can be incalculable.
Yeah.
Incalculable.
It doesn't fit in a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you just
And,
have
that,
to
and
be
that's what
aware
we
of
try
it.
to say. Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's
so-
what we try to say from the get-go.
Yeah.
He may be living large on $400 a month, which is good. I mean, I
Yeah.
think he needs that because potentially if that person turns,
Hopefully he's been saving it.
Hopefully he's been saving it.
Yeah.
Because I almost guarantee if they're in there for 3-4 years, he's going to spend at least half of it.
Yeah.
So
Nolan, if you're listening, buddy,
start saving it.
we're rooting for you. But start saving.
Anyway,
So yeah, I mean that was pretty much it I had on the Section 8. I've got some other info. I got something on here that also says that the Housing Authority for Birmingham also, besides the $2.1 million that they're putting into trying to expand the program, also received $5 million in the springtime. So obviously the federal government's just been printing money
yeah.
lately. So I'm glad we're at least getting a piece of the pie.
Getting their share.
Yeah, so at least they're getting a little bit. There was no details on what that $5 million
Was for.
did or went to, or did it just go to help the funding gap that we may have on the program?
Already.
Yeah. Who knows? But I just, it's something that I just don't really focus on. And I tell a lot of our clients not to focus on either. So
Maybe something worth at least.
I think it's
At least
worth
looking into.
I mean, and I'm not sure what the screening process can look like. You probably know. Is it the same screening process as it would be for a fair market
Oh yeah.
tenant?
It has to be. I mean, fair housing. You can't really discriminate.
Yeah, I mean, and you wouldn't discriminate if they had something show up on their background that a regular market renter would have. It would be the same situation,
Yeah.
right? So you could get into the same situation with a Section 8 tenant as you could with a regular
Oh, yeah.
market tenant,
And another thing that I want to point out, because if you're looking at going this route, you'll want to have this discussion with your agent, your property manager. But there's multiple different Section 8 HUD offices within Birmingham. So if you get a application, that voucher could be Birmingham, it could be Jefferson County Section 8, it could be Bessemer. I think there's Shelby. So it could come from a lot of different places, and that's the office whose processes you're dealing with.
Yeah.
and they could be very different.
So you need to know that going down the front end, or have a property manager who understands
Yep, exactly.
what that process looks like for each different department.
Yeah.
Good thing. I feel like this episode didn't have as much comedy, but
It didn't.
had
I
a
mean,
lot
it
of
was just numbers and
information.
cut and dry. It's hard to laugh about Section 8. Like I don't want to step on any toes or anything, but it is cool. I think it's great that there are programs out there. Just like every other government program, there are people who use it and abuse it and don't do it the right way. But for every government program, there's also a single mom with 3 kids that needs a place to stay.
Yeah.
And that's what it's there for. And there's not a lot of other countries in the world. I mean, there's a lot of other countries in the world. It's not just the United States. I want to say that. But there's not a lot of them that have social safety nets
Yeah.
like we do.
It's a blessing.
Yeah,
You know?
we're just the best.
Yeah, we are just number one. USA. No, I'm just kidding. So, I mean, that's pretty much all I have.
Yeah. That's good, man.
Keep it quick if possible. Do y'all have anything else on Section 8 that I'd love to hear. Could we do a horror story? Like the worst horror story you've seen or heard of?
Well, the one that's coming to my mind, I really can't. It's just a sad one that I can't talk about.
So
funny.
next time, if I pick a topic, I'm not picking like the sad,
"Do you have
depressing
like
one.
good-
It's one that I can't talk about without.
I'll tell you a
getting
good
emotional.
story. So I've got a duplex in Inslee. I actually seller financed the duplex,
Good.
and one side wasn't renting. The other side has had Section 8 gentlemen for like years.
Yeah.
And it's been super consistent. And so she was like, I can't get this one side rented. I was like, well, I'll take on the whole thing. Renovated the other side, got someone in there. But this Section 8 on this other side, I mean, it is, when he moves out, honestly, he may never move out. He potentially will pass away in that. I mean, it is his home.
Yeah.
But that said, it is going to be a big flip.
It's a
when he
house
moves
redo.
out. But that said, it has been relatively low maintenance. He's happy. He stays consistent. He pays his portion every month. We have a good rapport with each other. And Section 8 just went through, and I'm surprised, but they passed it. Because and my guys are actually out there right now, probably fixing a faucet.
Really?
So there's minor stuff that happens, but for the most part, it's been a good experience. Now, like I said, the place will need a full flip whenever that happens, but I'm kind of prepared for it, and it is what it is. So.
I think what the big takeaway from this is preparation.
Yeah.
And understanding, going into it from the front end of this could potentially just have to be a new house at the end of it. As long as you plan for that, $400 or $500 a month cash flow is great, but you better put a little bit aside.
And the debt's getting paid down.
And debt's getting paid down. Yeah.
And you have some cash flow to cover the expenses on the turn, and you keep rolling, and the asset hopefully appreciates, and you win in the long run. I mean, at the end of the day, we're winning if we hold property long term.
Sure.
So
not a 5-year play.
It is a plan to hold property and get the debt paid.
I'm going to keep watching him, see what he does in a year or two, and see how his portfolio looks, and see how it goes. So,
well, hopefully y'all enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Have a good New Year.
Have a great New Year. Is this coming out before as New Year's Eve or
right after Christmas?
Let's drop it at like January 1, 12:01.
He wants to be the Section 8.
I want to be the Section 8, the first person of the year to put a podcast on Spotify. Like, I want to be that guy.
Welcome to the first Section 8 podcast of the year.
Yeah. Woo. Hopefully the last one, because this is a sad one.
For
This one was no humor at all. Cool. Well, I appreciate y'all coming.
Take it easy.
See y'all.
All right, bye.